Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is Left Bank Books welcomes best-selling thriller author Charlaine Harris and best-selling mystery author and St. Louis native Elaine Viets, who will discuss their new books, The Russian Cage, Gunny Rose #3, and Death Grip, the fourth in the series. Left Bank Books is St. Louis's oldest independent bookstore. We would like to thank all of our supporters, the supporters of Charlaine and Elaine, and everyone for their outpouring of love for our bookstore. Left Bank Books offers curbside pickup and delivery to anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. We are happy to be able to bring our event series virtual. We believe that events are a way to expand your mind and bring in new thoughts to make the world a better place, but also to just have a good time sometimes. We hope that you enjoy this event, and we hope that you support Left Bank Books by purchasing a signed copy. That's right, a signed copy for you or for all of your friends at left-bank.com. Purchasing a signed copy of the book from Left Bank Books allows us to keep our bookstore and staff operating. It also allows us to keep this incredible event series going. So thank you for your support. We need your support. I am Shane Mullen. I'm the events coordinator for Left Bank Books. I help produce our hundreds of author events each year with a fantastic team here in St. Louis. We will be taking questions from you, the audience, at the end of the event, so you can type those as a comment at any point in time throughout the event. Be sure to follow Left Bank Books on Facebook to be notified about all of our fantastic virtual events, because Charlaine will be back here in just a couple of weeks on April. That's the month we're in. It's the first. April 13th at 7 p.m., we will be hosting the Edgar Awards Grandmasters conversation with Jeffrey Deaver, Charlaine Harris, and Regan Arthur. So really excited for that event, and you can come back and get even more Charlaine about tonight's books. So, about The Russian Cage. The #1 New York Times and USA Today bestselling author Charlaine Harris is at her best in this alternate history of the United States where magic isn't acknowledged but despised power in this third installment of the Gunny Rose series. Picking up right where A Longer Fall left off, this thrilling third installment follows Lisbeth Rose as she takes on one of her most dangerous missions yet, rescuing her estranged partner, Prince Eli, from the Holy Russian Empire. Once in San Diego, Lisbeth is going to have to rely upon her sister Felicia and her growing Grigori powers to navigate her way through this strange new world of royalty and deception in order to get Eli freed from jail, where he's being held for murder. Russian Cage continues to ramp up the momentum with more of everything Harris's readers adore her for, with romance, intrigue, and a deep dive into the mysterious Holy Russian Empire. About Death Grip. Each town has its secrets. Some are too deadly to stay hidden. Choteau County's super rich know how to cover up a scandal, but when it comes to murder, they'd better watch their backs. Death investigator Angela Richmond is determined to see a killer brought to justice in this sharply written and darkly entertaining mystery set in Missouri, perfect for fans of Lisa Gardner and J.A. Jance. Angela Richmond, Choteau County death investigator, finds herself deep in the Missouri woods on a perfect spring day. But there is nothing idyllic about her grim walk. A body has been discovered in a muddy creek, and Detective Jace Budowich wants Angela on the scene. Terry Gibbons, the popular Forest High track star who went missing 8 months ago, has been found strangled. Could a message found in Terry's shoe hold the key to catching her killer? Choteau Forest is a town of privilege and secrets, where everyone has something to hide. Can Angela overcome the many obstacles in her way to seek justice served when the forest's wealthy residents will go to any lengths to prevent the truth being revealed? About tonight's authors. So excited. Charlaine Harris is a New York Times bestselling author who has been writing for over 30 years. She was born and raised in the Mississippi River Delta area. She has written 4 series and 2 standalone novels, in addition to numerous short stories, novellas, and graphic novels co-written with Christopher Golden. Her Sookie Stackhouse books have appeared in 25 different languages and on many bestseller lists. They're also the basis of the HBO series True Blood. Harris now lives in Texas, and when she is not writing her own books, she reads omnivorously. Her house is full of rescue dogs, which I'm certain you will see during the event. Elaine Harris returns to her hard-boiled roots with her Angela Richmond Death Investigator series. Death Grip is the latest, following A Star is Born, Fire and Ashes, and Brainstorm, and the novella Ice Blonde. Elaine has 34 best-selling mysteries and 4 series. A St. Louis native, Elaine took the medico-legal death investigator training course for forensic professionals at St. Louis University and has won the Agatha, Anthony, and Lefty Awards. Elaine now lives in Fort Lauderdale with her husband, writer and reviewer Don Crinklaw. And now, if everyone at home would please help me in warmly welcoming our guests for the evening, please let them hear you wherever you are to wherever they are with a giant round of applause, Charlaine Harris and Elaine Viets. Hello.
Hi, thank you. Yes. What a lovely introduction.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to have both of you here.
It made me think we were kind of important in life.
I know. Would you say all that to my husband?
Sure. Do you want me to call him?
No. Okay. Well, this is my office, as you can see, and those are books. And like Charlaine, I'm not comfortable unless I'm totally surrounded by books while I read.
My office is also full of books. You can only see a portion of them. The ones jumbled by the fireplace, there we go, are ones that I'm not going to keep. And there's a much smaller box of ones I will keep because I think I'm going to read them again. I read a lot, a whole lot. And my room is the in and out for the dogs. The dog flap is in here. So if you hear a clack, clack and see a small brown animal walk behind me, it's just one of the dogs going in and out. And I'm sorry for the noise.
Well, Charlaine, I'm fascinated by your character, Gunny Rose, particularly since one of your books is called An Easy Death. So where did you come up with Gunny Rose? She's an amazing character.
Thank you. I got asked to be in a charity anthology edited by Sean Speakman. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to write any of my series characters because I viewed it as an opportunity to do something really different. And I thought, I want to write about a woman who shoots a lot of people. So I had to create the world that would allow her to do that and make a living at it. And that's the world that popped up, a world in which America has been divided into 5 parts. And she lives in the most lawless. And that's how she makes her living, is protecting people or shipments of goods from one point to another. And she's like one of the guys on the coach who always carries a shotgun. But she is a very, very good shot. That is her skill. So that is how she makes her living. She's also very young. And sometimes it's a challenge writing really young. But I love her. I love the way she is. I love thinking my way into her, which is how I get at because I write in the first person a lot, like you do, Elaine. Mm-hmm. Right. And you have to kind of think yourself into the character so the voice will be true. And that's how I kind of think myself into her. So I can just pick her up when I sit down to write again. Now, Angela has had a lot of adventures for a death investigator, and she seems on the brink of some good stuff in this book, which I just finished. So Angela's kind of coming back to life after her widowhood.
She's coming back to life. And by the way, her husband her dead husband creeps out my husband so much. And I keep saying, Don, the character is fiction. Yeah, I know, but I feel like I'm speaking from beyond the grave. But anyway, she is coming back to life after the unfortunate early death, excuse me, of her husband, and she's now dating a police officer, and his name is Christopher Ferretti. And I'm at the point now where I have to decide what happens next. He courted her very, very slowly because she really loves her ex-husband, dead husband. Excuse me. So yes, he's bringing her back to life. And now the question is, what's next? And I guess that's what I'll have to work on. Now, Charlaine, tell me what an easy death means.
An easy death is the traditional hello, goodbye for gunslingers because they have a very low life expectancy. And the worst thing for somebody who's been shot is to be gut shot and to lie there waiting and in great pain. So people will say, well, goodbye, Elizabeth. I wish you an easy death. And that's her world. And that's how she gets along is doing that. She's really kind of proud of her job and she knows she's the best. And there's a lot to be said for that, I think.
Well, she's very proud of her independence, too.
Yes. Yeah. Her mother raised her under difficult circumstances. And she was brought up to be independent and loyal and fend for herself. And that's what she still does. Now, I don't know anything about Angela's background before she became a death investigator. Was she a death investigator when her husband died?
Yes, she was. And her background is she lives in Choteau Forest, which is the home of the 1%, and it's based on the richer parts of St. Louis County. When I was a reporter, I wrote a lot about that, and but there was a lot I couldn't put in the paper too. So some of these stories I saved for fiction, and so she's part of the 1%, but not really. Her parents were servants for the Dupre family. And so she knows all the players, and she's been in these mansions, but as the daughter of a servant. And so it gives her a different perspective on things. Now, her parents lived in a cottage on the Dupre family estate, and it was a guest house. And when they died, she inherited it. And she was allowed to buy only the house. She couldn't buy the land. And so the Dupres maintain control over her. If she ever displeases them, they can make her, they can buy back their house at what her parents paid, which was $25,000.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Ooh.
So, she knows the wealthy, she knows their children, she knows their lifestyle, and she kind of resents it, and she resents the power that they exercise. But she's fascinated with being a death investigator, and it's a puzzle because she believes that the dead speak to you, and they do. They tell you how they died. The question is, can you get past the "oh my God" reflex to actually look at what happened?
Do you think maybe since Angela was so close to death herself, that she has a special affinity with her job now?
I think it could be. And Angela, like me, had 6 strokes and brain surgery. And so she views death very differently. And people ask her, like they ask me, when you were in a coma, did you see the bright light? And I said, no. And I said, and no relatives either, because if I had, I would have come back a lot sooner. But, but none of that happened.
That.
Pardon?
That's tacky to ask that.
But they do. So, I'm used to it. But yes, Angela has a special relationship with death. And she's kind of, she's fascinated by it and also repelled. It's part of it. But mostly she tries to help the living. Because when someone's murdered or someone dies suddenly, that's terrible, but it's far worse on the survivors. And so when they ask questions like, did they suffer? The answer is always no, because she doesn't want them to know the truth. And so she says no. And that's the worst part of her job is going to inform the families.
Is that actually built into the job, Elaine?
Yes. Death investigators started in St. Louis, and in 1978. It's a relatively new profession. And so it's built into it. And after they do the investigation, the death investigator has to inform the family. And death investigators don't go alone for this job, because people react in strange ways when they get this terrible news. And sometimes they want to kill the messenger. And so I've known death investigators who've been attacked when they, told the family that their son or daughter died, because the person is in such denial that all they can do is lash out at the death investigator.
I used to do rape crisis counseling.
Oh my.
Oh, it was tough. I was a volunteer, but I got the same reactions sometimes when relatives would come to the hospital where the victim was being examined, and they were gathering evidence with the rape kit, and I was basically there to hold her hand, and they would say, well, what happened to her? And I would say, very unfortunately, she's they got very angry at me. And so I understand the resistance to bad news that some people have.
Yeah. Now, Gunny Rose. I keep going back to Gunny Rose because I think she's such an amazing character. This is set in 1939, right? In a
thank you, because people say, oh, it's just so confusing. I don't know when it's set. And I thought, okay, it's set in the 30s because, Franklin Roosevelt is dead and his vice president got killed, and the Depression happened, and the influenza has had its big go around and is coming around again. And so, it seems clear to me, but I don't want to say that I don't want to put the year in there, because I'm afraid I'll trap myself into something, another mistake. But you're absolutely right. It's 1939.
And Gunny lives in what used to be Texas, right?
Right. It's a country now called Texoma, which is comprised of Texas and Oklahoma. The bottom part of it got taken by Mexico. So
they just took it back.
They did. And Canada took a big whack at the Great Lakes. Those Canadians.
That's right. You can't trust them. They're not as nice as you think. And California is now Russian?
It is. It's the Holy Russian Empire, because Nicholas and his family were in a flotilla for many years after they escaped from the Reds, and floated here and there trying to find a safe haven and a place to reestablish themselves. But a lot of countries spurned them. You probably know that his first cousin was the King of England at the time. And in fact, they looked almost identical. Weird. But his cousin said no.
Yep.
And refused to give them harbor. So they end up in America, and William Randolph Hearst gets fascinated by him, as I think he would have,
Absolutely.
And he's building Hearst Castle at the time, and he invites them to come stay, and of course they're delighted. And then they sort of find a home in California, which has a thriving movie industry and would love nothing more than real royalty.
Right.
So they get kind of voted in, and they start establishing themselves in San Diego. And that's where their capital is. And they're digging in really hard. Nicholas is dead. His son Alexei is the czar. And Alexei has had a son, but his health is still very precarious.
He has the same problem the real Russians had, right?
Yeah, he's hemophiliac. And it was just amazing. He lived, well, that sounds tacky. It's amazing he lived long enough to get shot.
It does sound tacky.
It does. That's terrible. But only because he had every advantage, and because who wasn't really a monk, the monk Rasputin, had some mysterious power to help him, did he live to that point. So,
what was the first book that made you cry that you read?
oh my goodness. Oh, Elaine. There was one book that made me start crying in an airport. And right now, I can't remember who it was by. It was the third book in a trilogy. And the first one was called Caught Stealing.
Okay.
And then there were two more. A brilliant, brilliant book. And by the time I got to the third book, and it didn't end well for our hero, I just sat there in the airport and cried.
No.
What about you?
I think my first one was The Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh, gosh, yes.
When I read it, I was Anne Frank's age. And it finally, at that age, you don't think you can die, particularly people your own age. And the book just ended, and it dawned on me, she's dead. She wrote this, and she had a boyfriend, and everything was going so well, and now she's dead. And it just really got to me.
Not only dead, but dead in terrible circumstances. I'm so glad that survived. It really brings home to people what it would mean to have your life interrupted like that.
Yeah.
And you would wish it would never happen again, but of course, humans are humans.
Yeah, unfortunately. So what's your next project? Are you doing another Gunny?
Yeah, I have a contract. Well, I'm writing one right now, but it's from the point of view of Elizabeth's sister, Felicia.
Okay.
Who is a piece of work. And she's still at the Rasputin School in San Diego. But all kinds of things happen, and she's shown she's pretty ruthless in the past. It seems to be a common thread between the sisters, and she fully bears that out. And she's probably at that point 15, so hormones too.
Oh, good. Ruthless and hormones.
Yeah. What's happening with Angela next?
I'm currently going over the edits for the next one, which is called Life Without Parole. And I have a wonderful, wonderful editor. His name is Carl Smith, and he points out all the things that I repeated. I was really embarrassed. I didn't know I did that. And, I have a terrible problem with time.
Shh. Hush. Sorry.
That's okay. I have a terrible problem with time. And so I would get the days wrong and he'd straighten it out. And, bless him, he caught that. He's just, I can't say enough good things about him. So I'm going through that. And of course, I'm being very embarrassed as I read it.
Do people write you when they find mistakes?
Of course.
Oh, they can hardly wait.
Yes.
It's like, I really hate to do this. And I'm going, right. Yeah. Right. You could have not told me and I would have been in blissful ignorance for forever. But, oh, no.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what the Murphy's Law for writers is? That as soon as you get your book and you open it up, it will immediately open to the page with the typo.
Yeah, that sounds pretty. Well, I don't get typos so much, but I do. I do make mistakes when I write books.
Yeah, I do.
The older I get, I'm afraid. Well, no, I don't think I make more. But they don't get caught, even though it seems like the book gets read 12 times by so many different people before it comes to be printed. And you would think out of all those people, someone would have caught it. And so I'm glad I have someone else to blame. I thought, okay, I made the initial mistake, but your job is to catch it. So,
well, what I missed most when I was a reporter, I started way back in the days of the hot lead when they had real printers, and you could blame all your mistakes on a drunken printer. And then,
that would be me.
Yeah. Well, then it changed so that, you typed your story in and that's what got in the paper. And now you can't, you can't, blame it on, you'd have to blame yourself.
Yeah.
I really miss the good old days.
Yeah, I do not like saying, well, it's all my fault. I made a mistake.
Yes.
But yeah, I've gotten kind of used to it. Have you missed going to conventions this year?
Yes, I do. And I miss going to signings in person.
Yes.
And seeing readers. There's just an energy that's not there anymore. And
it makes you want to go back and do more and do better.
Yes.
I miss that. I don't miss the traveling process.
No.
Because that's gotten increasingly unpleasant. But I do miss the interaction with people who have read the books and read other books, and with people who work in bookstores and seeing the bookstores.
Librarians. I miss all of that.
Yeah, me too.
I even miss bookstore cats.
Okay.
Well, I had this thing with bookstore cats because one of my first signings was in Baltimore, and they had a bookstore cat. And the cat, this is back when I wore pantyhose, the cat jumps on my lap and then digs its claws into my legs, ruining $12 worth of pantyhose. And of course, I'm trying to sell my book to the bookseller, and I'm going, oh, isn't he cute?
Yeah, it wouldn't have gotten you many points if you had thrown the cat across the room.
No, but I really wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, Shane, thank you. Yeah, that writer of the book that made me cry was Charlie Houston.
Charlie Houston. Okay.
Huston. Those are so excellent.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Do we have 5 more minutes, Elaine? Can we talk for 5 more minutes?
Let's go straight to the audience. You want to do that?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. we have a lot of questions from the audience, and I thought since you were talking about how you missed people so much that maybe it would be great to get to some of these audience questions because they're fantastic. And I have some of my own too because I always have questions for mystery authors. Let's start with the fabulous Fedora, another local St. Louis author, president of the local chapter of Sisters in Crime currently. So Fedora says, great to see both of you again. What a super duo. I'd like Elaine to explain how she keeps up with forensics since it changes almost day to day. And I admire the grit to take a course in it.
Well, thank you. And I try to keep up as much as I can. And my secret is that I have a homicide detective and a former, former medical examiner. And both of them help me. So when I have questions, and also a woman who's now a professor who's one of the noted blood spatter experts. And so I send things to them and they mark it up and tell me what I did wrong, but I'm really grateful to them. And the cop, I particularly will call him and go, can I arrest the person with this information? And he'll say no. So then he'll tell me what I need. But his name is Bob White, and I'm really grateful to these people. They are extremely helpful. And I've met you, Fedora, and the St. Louis Sisters in Crime chapter has been really nice to me.
Charlaine, do you work with particular people to help you do research, or do you just go anywhere and get the research anywhere you can?
Well, last year I attended, well, probably wasn't last year, it was probably 2 years ago now. I attended the police academy that Lee Laughlin runs every year. Oh my gosh, that was just fabulous. Just fabulous. The fingerprinting and the, we talked to the guy who went into the Unabomber's cabin first. And oh man, it was great. It was just great. Yes, I do have people. I have a former, I can't remember her correct title in Louisiana. She did autopsies. And she gave me a tour of her morgue. And even now she answers questions. I have a guy who is just a regular doctor, and he answers my questions also. I have asked police departments before for help, and they've been, they didn't laugh, so okay. And they actually did give some thought to the questions I asked and referred me to their community relations officer, who was quite helpful. So I was really impressed with that. I've had a few interactions with the police that weren't so wonderful, but if you approach them as a professional, they'll react professionally. There are all kinds of people I call. I used to have an former FBI agent I used to call from time to time. He was extremely helpful too. People like to talk about what they do.
Yes. And one thing that the blood spatter expert said is, we really want mystery writers to get it right because it makes our job better. Otherwise, people read it, they think they can get DNA in 30 minutes, and all of these things, when it's wrong, it makes our job worse. So she said, I would much rather straighten out your mistakes than have them published.
And that's so practical.
If I were a mystery author, I would want to have those people on speed dial, because I would not want to have to randomly call an expert and be like, now hear me out. I've got a really bizarre one for you. Once they have your sense of humor and your style, I'm certain that you probably want to keep them around. Which I want to throw in one of my questions, since we were talking about the morgue. And do you have a running body count for your unfortunate victims in your books?
Oh, so many. I don't think I could possibly count.
Me neither.
Oh,
Someone out there probably has done it though. Like, you probably have fans. If you're out there, fans, and you have a running number, like you can even say up to like book 2 in the series if you haven't read the newest one yet. Like, put that number in the comments.
boy, Gunny has really a really high body count.
Oh, yeah.
And no, I never think about it. I mean, it's not like we're killing real people. Then I would know.
Wink.
Well, and in Suki, are they dead or undead? I mean, there's your question.
There is a little ambivalence there.
Mm-hmm. Like, when do you actually count them in the body count? The first time, the second time? Yeah. Okay, so we have a series of questions from Joanne. So we're going to go through them all because I think they're great. And the first one is for you, Elaine. I'm your biggest fan in California and have read all of your books and just finished A Star is Dead. I, too, started as a newspaper reporter. What is your favorite time of day to write?
My favorite time of day is in the morning, but not real early morning. I'll have breakfast and get up and, I realize this is serious. It's a job. So, after I have breakfast, I go straight to my office and I watch about 30 minutes of cat videos. And for some reason, I love watching cats fall off things. And and then I settle down to work. And I work from about 9 until 1, and then I have lunch. And then after lunch, I'll write until about 4 or 5. And that's pretty much it for the day. Then I'll take a walk, and Don and I will watch TV and mostly mysteries. We're currently watching Forever. Have you ever seen that TV show? It was only 1 season, and it's about a medical examiner who can't die. And so every time he's killed, he comes back. And it's a fascinating series. I really recommend
it. Joanne says, Charlaine, I have 12 rescue dogs.
Oh.
And then the question, so there are 2 questions a bunch of questions rather. We'll skip around, but let's do this one first. So all my family are from Illinois. They are also writers, editors, book publishers, or columnists.
Wow.
I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Some say you don't inherit a love of writing. I disagree. I can't imagine doing anything else. I think it's in the blood. How do you feel about that?
Well, it is so difficult and often so thankless that I think it must be a very impelling force in you that makes you want to sit down by yourself for many hours and just rack your brain to put words on the page. But I have never loved anything like I love writing. I've never wanted to be anything else but a writer. And I feel incredibly grateful that I can actually make my living doing this. So many people have to compromise with what they do for a living. They have to take what's there, or they have to come to love something they don't really love. But I had an incredible opportunity when I married my second husband. He offered me the option of staying home and writing. And if he hadn't had that faith in me, I'd still be a typesetter at some ad agency, which was what I was doing. So I am super grateful. And that was, 42 years ago, friends. And so I think I'll keep him. So he told me to write. I did. And this is my 40th year as a published writer. Yes. Am I old or what?
Let's go to a question from Diane. So, Charlaine, after the amazing success of the Sookie Stackhouse series, are you writing Gunny Rose with a TV show or movie in mind? Any ideas how many books there will be in the series? And lastly, could you please say hi to Diana in Huntsville, Alabama? I'm a huge fan of your work.
Oh,
Diana or Diane?
Diana.
Diana, because I have a cousin, Diane.
Oh.
Okay, Diana, hello. Thank you so much. You've given me a big boost. Okay. I have a contract for one more Gunny after the one I'm writing, and we'll see then how we go. That's another thing readers sometimes don't get right, that we have to write what we're going to be paid to write rather than, but generally it's what I want to write anyway. Okay, what was the other question? I lost track.
So are you writing Gunny Rose with a TV show or a movie in mind?
It's in development.
Ooh.
But I never write with a TV show in mind. I think that's crazy. And it limits your own vision. So I never do that. I never cast them in my head. I just think that is well, there's really something better than my books, and if I can see it on the screen. When my concern is entirely the books.
I mean, I'm assuming that you didn't imagine like Sookie being said in the way that it was said when you were writing the book. So like, yeah, it's like TV and books are like a completely different thing.
It's a whole separate experience, and I am not responsible for what's on the screen, and I watch it and appreciate it like any other TV viewer who's watching something completely new.
Sue is asking, Elaine, I love your Dead End Job and Mystery Shopper series. Will there be any more books in those series?
The Mystery Shopper series, the Josie Marcus series, has pretty much run its course. And I think Charlaine and I talked about this. Sometimes the well just goes dry, and you don't want to keep dragging it out. And the last reviews for the Mystery Shopper were good. So I wanted to end it while it was still a good series, rather than have people go, oh God, is she still doing that? And the Dead End Job series is currently on hiatus. I may go back to it, but right now I'm busy with Angela.
My follow-up question to this is, do you ever get an idea for a mystery or like something that is integral to like the whole course of the story that just doesn't fit with the series that you're currently writing? And A, is that how a new series is born? Or B, do you just kind of stuff it away and hope to get back to it at some point?
Sometimes I just use it as a short story. And, you know, if it's a successful short story like Gunny Rose was for Charlaine, you can spin it off into a series. But sometimes it's just something you need to get out of your head. And a short story is often a good way to do it.
I agree. I've written a series of short stories for Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine about a character in South Carolina who has a terrible past. She ran a secret survival camp where people got, she trained people, and some of them died. So they gave her a golden handshake and gave her a new job and a new name as a high school principal. So her high school is not like any other high school because she likes her high school to be the best. And she'll do whatever it takes to make that happen. So I really enjoyed writing those stories. There are 4 or 5 of them now. And I have a collection of the first 3. that my agent sells on his website. And I really enjoy writing those. But I don't want to write a full book about her. I just don't see her as a full book. I catch her in her most ruthless moments. That's the fun time.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to imagine what a Tuesday is like as a principal when no one's being found dead.
Yeah.
So let's go back to a question from Joanne. It has been said you should have 3 books written in a series before you query a publisher. Did you?
No.
I hadn't heard this advice before, so.
No.
I mean, that would have been really nice, but no, I didn't. And in fact, when they would say, "Is this going to be a series?" I would think, "Yeah, sure it is." Of course, I can write many more books about this character.
Well, when do you want to start paying me?
Yes, cross my palm with silver.
Yeah.
Usually what I've done, the first time for the Dead End Job series and my series before that, I wrote the first book, but I didn't write 3. I just wrote 1. And when they bought it, then I had to come up with the others. But I've not heard the one about 3 books. It sounds like a good idea, but really I would write the book and try to sell it and then keep it going.
Yeah.
Also,
Dead Until Dark, I wrote that. I had that completed, and my agent was trying to sell it for 2 years. 2 years. So, I have many nice moments when I think it's in its 32nd printing now. Thank you.
And some people work hard, have to wait longer than 2 years for their first book. I know many authors that have had to put their first book away and maybe never get back to it. Some of them have gotten back to it and made it into their 3rd book, 4th book. So
everything else had sold. Everything else I wrote had sold, maybe not instantly, but eventually. But that book was, it was really unpopular until it found the right place to be.
Yep. Everything finds a home at some point.
I'd like to think so.
I would like to as well. So Charlaine, does Candace Cameron Bure portray Aurora Teagarden how you imagined her?
God, no. And you just can't ever. No, she's nothing like Aurora. You read the description of Aurora, which is very short. Well, Candace is really short. But she has really wavy, curly hair, and she wears glasses. In fact, she has a glasses collection because she loves to switch them up. And Candace is not dressed as the character. She is nothing like that. But you just can't expect that to happen. Almost never do the actors hired look like the picture in your head, because the picture you've got is in your head. It's now, this is very nice, and those are very successful movies. The Hallmark demographic just loves those, just loves them, and I enjoy them.
I know the fans do as well, so yeah. I remember from your last event, I think over half the questions were, because I think they were maybe slightly impatiently waiting for the next one. They were very eager for some more Aurora Teagarden.
And now that True Blood's being rebooted, people ask me a lot of questions about that. I'm going, all I know is what I read in Variety, frankly.
I didn't know that it was being rebooted.
Has not gotten in touch with me at all.
I didn't know. What is the news there? I missed that.
You now you know everything I know.
I'm just still like trying to catch up on the news about Stabler being back on Law and Order SVU tonight. Like that's all the that's the news I live for. Elaine, did a homeless woman incident on a stage like the one in A Star Is Dead really happen?
No, it did not. But that's the scene where a character who's sort of based upon Joan Rivers. I know Joan has many fans, but when I was a very young reporter, I interviewed her in person, and she made a lot of fun of the homeless. And I was I was very shocked. And she made jokes about the war on poverty, and so I threw a hand grenade at a bum, and I didn't know what to do. But anyway, and also she made fun of her facelifts, and they were scary. Her her skin looked like melted bubble gum close up. And so, whenever people say I'm going to get a facelift, I go, think about it. but anyway, she was sort of based on my encounter with her. Now, there is something with a homeless woman in the book following a man down the street, and she wants money, and he says no, and she yells at him, "You're a racist," and he turns and says, "How dare you judge me?" And that really happened to a friend of mine, and it happened on Grand Avenue near the Fox Theater, and he was very shaken by it. So that one was true.
Have we talked about tonight yet where you get ideas for stories? Where do you find, is it all just pure imagination, or are you inspired by true crime incidents?
Just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Articles I read in the paper, things I see on the news, just letting my mind float around like a hot air balloon, thinking about what really interests me at the moment, which can be any number of things. And all that can spark the idea that, you start out with a little germ of an idea, and then you add, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you have your world.
Mm-hmm.
That was my next question. Like, do you start with character or do you start with world?
Character. Character determines the world.
Yeah.
At least for me.
I'm often fascinated by, I go through my notes from the Death Investigator course, strange and interesting ways that people died. And that can become the basis of a book. And so, I have those incidents. I have homicide cops who tell me stories, and, that becomes the start of a book.
Christina's asking, for both authors, are there any of your characters, past or present, that you are particularly fond of? And let's go one step further and say, would you date any of your characters? Would you be best friends with any of your characters? How fond are you of some of your characters?
Not that
Would you murder any of your characters? We can play the Andy Cohen game.
I have to work with a character I like as my protagonist. That sometimes means, though, that I'm nothing like her. And that is, especially writing someone who doesn't have a sense of humor, it's difficult for me because, I want to laugh. And I'm straight, so I probably wouldn't date any of my protagonists. I'm limited. But I try to find something in the main characters to admire. If they're going to stick around for a while, there's got to be something about them I find interesting, lovable, or just pleasant, or useful. Everybody's useful in a book. You can't have stray, useless people.
What about you, Elaine?
I like the character of Helen, and in the Dead End Job books, and Phil is based on my husband. He's based so much on my husband that Don will read the manuscript and go, "I wouldn't say that," and I said, "Yes, you did." So yes, I would definitely date Phil and marry him. In fact, I have. So I like Angela. She's a little more serious. I really like her friend, the assistant medical examiner, Katie. I'd like to go drinking with Katie.
Yes.
Yes.
So since you've created a character based on your husband, I know that a lot of mystery authors will steal people from their lives, sometimes via charity, like they'll name people after people or like to benefit charity auction things.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that? And have you ever just stolen someone's identity just because you could?
Oh, no, I would be in legal trouble if I did something like that.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You probably can admit that.
The character of Nitpicker Byrne, who's the tech in the Angela books, is based on a very generous woman who lives in Australia. She's a lawyer, and she made a very generous donation to charity, and she shows up in every book. And I often ask these people, "How do you want to be portrayed?" And she said, "Well, I'm sort of sturdy, so you can make me sturdy, but give me different colored hair." So sometimes it's green and sometimes it's blue, but I always give her different colored hair in the book.
I've been named in 2 books. One first name only, and I was dead before the book even began. Like, character just completely dead. The second book, I was first and last name, and one of my Lori Rader named a deputy after me in her third book, fourth book, third book, I think it is. And it was just such an honor, like such a privilege, and I didn't have to buy it, which was also wonderful. Like, I would donate money to a charity for this honor, but I didn't have to. So now I can. I mean, I should just ask and be like, what charity should I donate money to?
Well, I had one woman who donated money to charity because she said she wanted to be in my books and described as someone with large breasts, because she would like to get a boob job, except she was too scared. And so I put her in my book. I put her in a swimming suit around a pool, and I had 2 men admire her generous proportions. And she was very happy with that.
Wish fulfillment at its finest, for free. Well, no, not
Yeah.
quite donated. So
No surgery scars either.
Since I know that both of you are big fans of rescue organizations, do you want to maybe suggest an organization because people might have some disposable income right now from the stimulus or from tax season being like that's right around the corner. So do you have a favorite charity that you want someone to make a donation to?
Well, I love charities for animals, but I also love charities for people. And my big favorite is Kiva, Kiva. It's making microloans to people around the world who repay them. So you basically use your donation money over and over to help people. And you can pick the person you're helping, and it might be a woman who needs more groceries to sell at her stall, or a group of women who want to make tourist artifacts. And I find it fascinating to see what they need the money for, and to help them with a $25 loan. And you get it back. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, that's my rescue cat, Harry, in the background howling. He wants to be on the other side of the door. But I like to donate my money to Feeding South Florida because some of my friends are teachers, and I am surprised at the number of students who have trouble studying because there's not enough food for them. So, much as I love animals, children are our future, and feeding America, Feeding South Florida is feeding America. So please help feed them. It's really bad now.
Yeah. Well, we have gone over the hour mark, and it's such a delight to get to meet you both again. Elaine, we've done a number of events together,
Yes.
but Charlaine, this is only the second time, and I didn't get to spend much time with you the first time, so I'm thrilled that we got to spend a whole hour together, and I know the audience is as well. Yep, people thanking. Oh, wow. Thank you again for signing all those books for me in London. So thank you for your time and incredible insights. This is from Jamie. Charlaine, it was great seeing you and getting to experience your laughter again. Loved the Orient Express trip and think of you often. Almost finished.
That was great. That was great.
He says, almost finished that first manuscript thanks to your advice. So, yeah. So very exciting. And
Yes.
I want to thank you both. I want to thank the audience for joining us. A reminder that we do have signed copies of both fantastic books. Look at how beautiful they are right next to each other. Like, they're so good. So buy one, buy both. They're both signed copies because you were both so nice to send signed book plates to us in St. Louis. We will mail them anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. So if you are in London and want a copy of either one of these books mailed to you, we will do that. You just can't do that directly through the website. You can email us. But yeah, and I really hope that we get to have you back in St. Louis again soon. And I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you, Shane. I've had a wonderful time. Bye-bye, Elaine.
Bye.
Oh.
Thank you, Shane. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
And I forgot to mention again that Charlaine is going to be back in about 2 weeks on the 13th. So we will be hosting the Grandmaster conversation with Charlaine Harris, Jeffrey Deaver, and Regan Arthur. So something else to put on your calendar.
Oh, boy.
And congratulations, Charlaine. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Elaine. And thank you for doing this with me. It's just been so much fun. Tell Donna I said hey.
I will. And the same tale.
I will. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.